I'm not going to touch that one. వచ్చేసింది. స్టార్ట్ రికార్డింగ్ అంటే ఎస్ అని చెప్పాయి. ఒకసారి చెక్ చేసుకో. ఒకసారి చెక్ చేయి, ఇప్పుడు అవుతుంది. Yeah, that's great. So let me keep the Eclipse open and let me open the document. See, same as Spring application flow only with small changes. Because of that @Spring Boot application annotation is there. Now, because of that, few changes will be there in the flow part. Otherwise, it would be more or less same. Hey, what's happening? To open Paint this much time, how come? 718, 719, that's it. What is happening? Paint this much time. So we'll open in another way. Please restart. Class content, guys. Spring. (719) Spring Boot core. Yeah. First of all, tell me, Spring application dot run method is having 2 arguments. What is first argument? The class that we are passing as a configuration class. Indirectly, main class name we are passing or not. Second one, ARGS, command line argument. They are captured internally. They will become values of one or other ready-made Spring Bean. Not our Spring Beans, guys. They will become Spring Bean property values for the internally generated Spring Bean, right? Nothing but command line argument values which will be injected toward internally generated Spring Bean. Internally, so many classes automatically become Spring Beans, guys. In some of those classes, these command line arguments will be injected as what? Property values. How they will be used right now, it is not important, but ARGS, nothing but command line arguments, which those will become Spring Bean property values. That's good. Okay, fine. Everything starts with the Spring application dot run method, na my dear. So Spring application dot run method perform bootstrapping of Spring Boot application by creating IOC container by taking argv1 class as what? Configuration class. So generally that is a main class name on which @Spring Boot application annotation is applied. Right? So everything bootstrapping of Spring Boot means it will start with what? Spring application dot run method. Spring application is predefined class. Run is the static method of that class. So that's the reason we are able to call on the class name. Okay, guys. Now let's see. Spring application dot run method, static method of Spring application class performs what? Bootstrapping of Spring Boot application by performing multiple activities, including the application context IOC container creation, by taking given class as what? Configuration class. In Spring Boot, we have two IOC containers, same containers here, no special containers. Bin factory and what? Application. In standalone Spring Boot application, the Spring application dot run method uses what? Following statement to create IOC container. What is this? Annotation config application context CTX is equal to new annotation config application context. This is the given configuration class or not there? The first arg of Spring application dot run will be taken here as the configuration class. At the rate Spring Boot application class becomes what? At the rate configuration class. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Got the clarity, my dear? Come on, everyone. Okay, guys. This is what? CTX, new annotation config application content. It is taking given class as the configuration class or not there? Okay, that's good. It is our regular application, Season Finder. So anywhere standalone application means flow starts with what? Main method. And flow ends with what? Main method. That's good. Now let's see what we can do here. Step number 1, run the application. 2, main method. 3, run method is called or not there. That is nothing but bootstrapping of the application. In that process, IOC container is created. 4, first argument, nothing but main class name. Nothing but main class name. Is it taken as the configuration class, my dear? Super. Okay, 5. Loads the configuration class. Loads the class as what? Configuration class. For the loaded class, creates the object and makes that object as Spring Bean or not there. Check it out. Hash 5 means reflection of the 5th step in the form of diagram. See, this object is created. What is the default bean ID? Class name will become default bean ID or not? Very lengthy class name is there. Class name itself acts as what? Bean ID. Having first letter in lowercase letter or not there? Having first letter in lowercase. The class name itself becomes what? Default bean ID. That's number 5. Number 6. It observes on the top of the class at the rate Spring Boot application annotation is there or not there. Super, guys. Number 7. In that annotation, enable auto configuration annotation is there. At the rate enable auto configuration annotation of at the rate Spring Boot application annotation checks. Are there any special starters added to the project to perform auto configuration? Unfortunately, we created this project without adding any special starters, right? Everything came by default. No special starters are added. Did we add any special starters? Did we add any special starters? Not at all, right? Yes. That's why no auto configuration. That means in first 1-2 example, we decided not to encourage what? Auto configuration. Though it is there as an internal annotation, it is not doing anything because there's nothing to do because no starters are added, right, boss? Okay, the same annotation at the rate Spring Boot application annotation is also having component scan annotation, guys. What that annotation will do, guys? It will take the current package com.nt. Why com.nt? At the rate Spring Boot application annotation is there on the top of main class. Main class is there in root package. So it takes com.nt and its sub packages, scans all the packages, and starts looking for what? Stereotype annotation classes are not there. At the rate component scan annotation of Spring Boot application scans what? Current package and its sub packages to get all the class names that are annotated with what? Stereotype annotation like what? At the rate component. In that process finds com.nt.sbeans.season finder class and it marks it as what? Spring. It simply marks it as what? Spring bean. Are you getting my point there, guys? It simply marks it as what? Spring bean. Everyone getting my point there, guys? That is number 8. What is number 9, guys? IOC container searches for what? At the rate bean method in configuration class and finds only one at the rate bean method of Spring Boot class, guys. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, number 8, it is going to this. And after searching all these things, it finds what, guys? After searching all these things, it finds one stereotype annotation class are not there. Okay. Okay, what is number 9? IOC container searches for are there any at the rate bean method? Finds one at the rate bean method are not there. Finds one at the rate component class. Finds one at the rate bean method inside the configuration class. Same story, guys. Only that annotation Spring Boot application is different. After that, regular story. Number 10, IOC container searches. Are there any singleton scope Spring Bean for pre-instantiation? No scope is mentioned means default scope is what? Singleton scope. So both are pre-instantiated or not there. Okay, happily. What happened, guys? IOC container searches for singleton scope Spring Beans and performs what? Pre-instantiation. Perform pre-instantiation means happily creates two objects are not there. One season finder class object, one local date class object will be created or not there. Super, guys. That is number 10. What is number 11, guys? As part of pre-instantiation, the singleton scope stereotype annotation classes will be pre-instantiated automatically. And at the rate bean methods of configuration class will be executed automatically or not there. Super, guys. That is number 10. What is number 11, guys? This component scan annotation code also activates at the rate auto void code, guys, and searches. Is there any place that at the rate auto void is placed in Spring Beans? Yes, finds in one place are not there. Where, guys, on the top of the has a property at the rate auto void is placed or not there. It will gather that property name and type. That property name and type. What do you say, guys? It will gather that property name and type. It will happily gather that property name and what type, guys. Okay. And such as, is there any Spring Bean whose class name is local date available? Takes that object and injects to what? Season finder class object are not there. So simply it is performing field injection activity are not there. Component scan annotation activates the code related to at the rate auto void annotation to search and get all the has a properties where at the rate auto void annotation is applied. In this process, it finds only in what? Season finder Spring Bean class. Super. Number 12. It will get the type of the property, name of the property, and searches for is there any Spring Bean whose class name is local date. It finds it. Okay, it happily injects that one to target one or not there. Number 13. Once all these are done, all these Spring Bean class objects will be kept in the internal cache of the IOC container. Target, dependent, that configuration class, that is also Spring Bean internally or not there. After doing all these things, the Spring application dot run method returns what? Application context object representing what? The above created IOC container are not there. Simply representing the above created what? IOC container. That is going to be number 14 or not there. Okay. Number 15. CTX dot get bean method is called, guys. Having bean ID CTX dot get bean method is called or not there. Okay. That is number 16. Where is number 16, guys? Okay. It will come to internal cache to check bean ID is there or not there. It will come to internal cache to check whether bean ID is there or not there, guys. Yes. Okay. Once there, it will be gathered or not there, guys. it will be gathered. It will access what? Spring Bean class object reference. Are you getting my point? And calls the business method. Okay, happily it is calling business method. That means control goes to business method. That is 19. Okay, based on the current month, it is returning what? Rainy season. That is 20. The rainy season output came. That's 21. And result is displayed 22. And close method is called. In the process of closing container, it will destroy all Spring Bean objects are not there. 23. End of the application means end of the application. That means what, guys? Yeah, end of the application means what? So all objects, everything will be vanished or not there. Tell me, guys, except that Spring Boot application annotation related activities, remaining all are what? Same as our earlier application or not there. Fine. That's why don't worry much on it, right? Okay. Sir, why are you going for typecasting? See, if you open with a try with a resource, it will be closed automatically. But I have not used a try with resource, at least in the paintbrush code. So that's why I'm closing it. But with what reference variable I am pointing? Application context. Is there any close method in application context? Not there. So when not there, what should I do? I have to typecast to that interface or that class where close method is there. So somehow it is there in what? Configurable application context. That's why I'm typecasting to configurable application context or not. Interface reference variable can refer one of its implementation class object. Agree with me? Interface reference variable can refer one of its what? Implementation class object. Yes or no, na guys? Using that reference variable, can we call direct methods of the implementation class? Yes, sir. Can we call direct methods of implementation class? You can call only common method, the one that is declared in the interface and implemented in the interface. Only common methods you can call. Yes or no, na? Are you getting my point? Only you can call common method. Got it, my dear? Array. Father is referring son's assets. Can he sell that son's assets? He can sell the common assets, na boss. Same is applicable here. Father can refer son's assets or son's properties. Anything common that can be sold or are operated by what? Father. But anything specific to son cannot be sold and operated by what? Father. Same is applicable here. OOPS is designed after real life scenarios. So everywhere one or other real life is involved if you observe very careful. What is the reason behind OOPS success formula? Because it is designed based on real world, real life and real world scenarios. Okay, guys. That is what I have explained here. Using interface reference variable that is pointing to implementation class, that is pointing to its implementation class object. We can call only common methods of both. If you want to call direct methods of implementation class, we need to go for what? Typecasting, like ctx dot close method call. We have to still need to do what? ctx dot close. That's great. What is the difference between Spring and Spring Boot? One side Spring, one side what? Spring Boot. Yeah. It is also called as Java EE framework or application framework. It is just called Spring Boot framework, no other name. Provides abstraction on Java JWT technologies and simplifies what? Application development. See, when this question comes no in your resume frameworks list, skill set you will write frameworks, na? Spring Boot. So by seeing both words side by side, he will get the curiosity. Can you tell me differences between what? Spring and Springboard. The moment he observes Servlet JSP, he will ask one question. Can you tell me difference between Servlet JSP? I'll give nearly 15, 20 differences of Springboard. You need not to explain all 20 differences. Try to tell 5, 6 differences. By that time, he'll realize you know that answer. Then he will also move, he only moves to what? Next question. But try to pick up best 5 differences. Non-controversy, non-confusing differences. Getting my point there. Which 5, that is your choice, but try to choose the best. Provides abstraction on JWE technologies, provides abstraction on Spring framework, and simplifies Spring applications development or not. Avoids boilerplate code related to what? Java JWE technologies based application development. Are you getting my point? Avoids Spring framework related what? Boilerplate code. Avoids Spring framework related boilerplate code. That's good. Though it avoided, it still contains some more boilerplate code. And that boilerplate code will be avoided by using what, guys? Spring Boot framework. So abstraction on abstraction. Spring provides abstraction on technologies. Spring Boot provides abstraction on what? Spring itself. The code that repeats in multiple parts of the project, either with no changes or with what? Minor changes, is called boilerplate code. Commonly repeating logics are called what? Boilerplate code. Are you getting my point? Yes. The main feature of Spring Framework is dependency management, both dependency injection and what? Lookup. The main feature of Spring Boot framework is what? Auto configuration, giving common things automatically or not. It will give common things automatically or not there, guys. Spring Boot framework is what? Self-intelligent. What intelligent, guys? Self-intelligent. Dependency management means arranging dependency class object to target class object by taking care of their life cycle or not there. Okay, next one. Supports XML driven configuration to provides inputs or configurations to IOC container. Does not support XML driven configuration directly. Spring Boot avoids or minimizes what? XML driven configuration. See, there are some features for which annotations are not there. In that can't but situation only, we think about going for what? XML configuration. Otherwise, mainly we always prefer to avoid what, guys? XML driven configurations are not there, guys. Are you understanding my statement, guys? If interviewer ask what does run method in Spring Boot, so how to give answer simplest way? It's a static method of Spring Boot application, Spring application class that bootstraps the Spring Boot application, that starts the Spring Boot application by creating the IOC container. And if you open yesterday's document, I have given list of tasks that run method does, right? Given or not given? Creating container, making command line arguments as Spring Bean properties. Come on, refreshing container. So many things, a list is given or not there. Auto closable CTX dot close. Array, auto closable is not having close method now. Auto closable makes to call close method automatically. That too if it is opened in try with resource, right? Okay. Versus applicable. Why can't we use annotation config with a try with resource? If run method is not returning annotation config application context, how do you will catch? Because we have to worry about return type of the run method also, by dear. Come on. We have to worry about return type. If it is allowed, we can take it. If it is not allowed, how can we cannot? Fine. See, return type of the, listen, Return type of the run method is application context interface. So you have to refer with what? Interface reference variable, one of its sub-interface reference variable, right? You cannot refer with what? Its implementation class object, fine. Come on. Though it is a returning implementation class object, you cannot refer with that. Basics of core Java. Driver manager dot get connection. Return type is connection. No, I know connection object class name I will capture with what? That class reference variable means going to work out, huh? Driver manager dot get connection method return type is what? Connection interface, right? But you know somehow class name of the connection object. Can you capture with the reference variable of connection object? With the class name of connection object, can we capture it, guys? No, we cannot. These are basic fundamentals. That's why don't be in the psychological feeling, I know, oops. You should know real utilization of what? Oops. Since you are asking, I'll try to put and you will get a red mark also. I'll try to put that as we expected. This is main class come configuration class, guys. Okay, instead of that, I will take what? It is actually giving annotation, annotation config. Control plus shift plus O. Yeah, what is this? Type mismatch. Cannot convert from configurable application context to annotation config application. We have to go for typecasting or not? We are trying to avoid typecasting. We are trying to encourage typecasting. Yeah, that's why we go back. We go back to this. Configurable application. Okay, guys. Next one. Supports, and Spring Boot is not against of XML, but try to minimize or avoid XML. In convert situation only use it. Allows to develop application using 3 types of configuration: XML driven, XML plus annotation driven, lastly 100% code driven. Next one. Supports only one style of configuration, that is what? Through annotations directly giving auto configuration inputs. Okay, that is application.properties. Only annotation driven configuration plus auto configuration. If you want to give any inputs to auto configuration, we can give that inputs either by using application.properties or YML file or not, guys. Okay. Can add a special configuration using XML through what? @import resource annotation. Programmer creates what? IOC container explicitly, except in Spring MVC application, right? Programmer does not create IOC container. Rather, he gets it by calling what? Spring application dot run method according to what? Application type. Does not give embedded server to run. So to run Spring based web application, we need to arrange what? Server explicitly. Go for what? Extra server. No embedded servers, guys. Every server is what? Additional servers. Gives Tomcat, Jetty, etc. as embedded servers in web application. You have a freedom here to use embedded servers and external server, where in Spring Boot you have an option to work with what? Embedded servers and external server. Does not give in-memory database, go only for external database. In Spring Boot, we have a freedom to work with what? Embedded servers and embedded databases and external databases. Supports good amount of loose coupling using what? Spring Bean configuration file. Using XML, I can change one dependent to another dependent without touching the source code or not there. Loose coupling is bit less because all configuration takes place through annotation, which is Java code. To get perfect loose coupling, here also we have to entertain XML or not there. We need to add dependencies manually and directly. Manually and what? Directly. So that means arranging jar file is our responsibility. Though use Maven Gradle, only if you add main dependents will come. But if you go for Spring Boot, starters are given, guys. Starters will take care of main, dependent, and relevant also, my dear. So what is the difference between regular jars and starters, guys? Starters will take care of what? Giving main jar files, dependent jar files, and relevant jar files, my dear. Super. Okay, tell me next one. Suitable for new projects development to exchange existing projects and to migrate project from one version of Spring to another version of Spring. Supports both brownfield and what? Greenfield project development. It's good for what? Enhancing existing project. Also good for what? Okay, creating a new project. So generally it is not suitable for migration project. Always prefer to develop the projects from scratch level or not there. So Spring Boot is good for greenfield projects or not there. Bit lightweight compared to Spring Boot because no auto configuration support. Why, sir? In what way it is? Yeah, very simple. Auto configuration creates both necessary and unnecessarily class as Spring Beans, na boss? We may use some of them, we may use some of them, right? We may not use some of them, we may use some of them. So some Spring Beans will be wasted unnecessarily or not there. So keeping in mind, so bit lightweight, come on, and bit heavyweight. Suppose if you add Spring Boot starter JDBC, okay, these many classes it is making as Spring Bean. Let us assume we are using in that one, two Spring Bean, and remaining things we are not touching. They are simply wasted or not there. They simply got wasted or not there, guys. Next one. Spring Framework is suitable for developing standalone applications, small scale and medium scale web applications are not there. Spring Boot is good to develop large scale web application, distributed applications, microservice architecture applications are not there. What do you mean by microservice architecture, guys? Develop different services as different projects, later integrate them. Later integrate them. No exclusive support for microservice architecture based what? Application development. Supports more exclusively are not there. No built-in property file support. That means every property file must be configured explicitly or not there. Gives built-in property file called application.properties with implicit what? Configuration. No support for what? YML file. Gives great support for what? YML files. We cannot inject the entries of property or YML file to Spring Bean properties through bulk injection process. That means we need to go for what? One-to-one injection using @value annotation or not there. Suppose 10 properties are there. I want to inject 10 values and 10 times you have to use @value annotation. But Spring Boot supports bulk injection by using configuration properties annotation. Though there are 10 properties, you want to inject 10 value. There is no need of writing @value 10 times. All you need to write only for one time. That is what annotation? Configuration property. It does not mean Spring Boot is not having @value annotation. It is still there. But on the top of it, one more annotation is given, that is configuration properties, using which we can perform what? Bulk injection. Got it? So there is no need of individual injection, guys. We can go for bulk. Gives multiple independent annotation to use in what? Spring program. Gives advanced annotation by combining multiple related annotations or not. It gives advanced annotation by combining multiple related annotations. Interesting or not there, guys? For example, you take @Spring Boot application, guys. It's a combination of three annotations are not there. Gives less productivity. Why? Many things we have to take care. Gives more productivity because of auto configuration or not. Many things happens internally and automatically. We can expect more productivity over here or not there. Here is my developer or not there. Developer develops what, guys? Spring Boot application or project using Spring Boot framework. The Spring Boot framework uses Spring framework, and Spring framework uses one or more technologies are not there. And all these technologies are built on the top of Java language are not there. Super. So programmer uses Spring Boot framework. Spring Boot framework uses Spring framework, and Spring framework is built on the top of what? One or more technologies. Yes or no, na, guys? Okay, that's good. Okay, what is microservice application? Is the extension of web service application or not there? Web service is a mechanism to develop the distributed application. Microservice is extension of web service where every microservice, nothing but every service will be developed as one RESTful application. Later, all of them will be integrated or not there. So that's why microservices is extension of what? Web services. Okay, now tell me, total how many ways are there to develop web services, guys? Two ways. One is SOAP based, one is what? RESTful. SOAP based is outdated. Now, right now, who is doing well? RESTful is doing well. Are you getting my point? Why SOAP based is outdated, guys? Array, SOAP based web services, data exchange is always possible using XML. But right nowadays, XML is fading out or not there. But in RESTful web service, the data exchange between client and provider application, client and server application is possible either using XML or using JSON. Either using XML or using what? JSON. And nowadays, JSON is what? Industry standard to exchange the data. So that's why we are going to spend time on what? RESTful web services. What services? RESTful web services. Are you getting my point there, guys? Microservices are built on the top of RESTful web services to develop different services modules as different projects. Here, each project is called one microservice. Later, those projects can be integrated for single project or what? Multiple projects. So if you are learning microservices means it is extension of web services or not there, guys. Using Spring Boot, we can develop standalone applications, web application, distributed application. Okay. Standalone means single mission application. Browser to application is what? Web application. Application to application is what, guys? Distributed application. We can also develop microservice architecture application, na boss. Distributed applications, comma. What is there? Microservice application. Enterprise application is combination of web application plus distributed application, na my dear. Come on. We can develop these enterprise application either having regular architecture, nothing but what? Developing different services as different module of single project. This is called monolithic architecture or not there. Or we can develop using what? Microservice architecture, nothing but developing different services as what? Different projects and later integrating them. Later we have to integrate them or not there. Different projects and integrate them. Later integrate. Later integrate them. Convinced, my dear? Yeah, this is what? E-commerce application using monolith architecture. Lot of modules are there, all are integrated and packed into single jar or where are not there. simply packed into single var file or what? Jar file. Clear, my dear? Super. Okay, next one. Multiple services are there as multiple projects. Service 1 separate project, service 2 separate project, service 3 separate project, service 4 separate project. Later integrated as required or not there. Later integrated as required or not there. Super, guys. Okay, now listen. E-com monolith architecture project is like ordering thali. You like it or not like it, everything comes as a single pack. Yes or no, na, guys? Okay. Microservice architecture is like uh, giving a la carte order. Menu is there. Whatever you required, you have selected and integrated before eating. Right, my dear? Okay. Next. Um, monolith architecture application is like you purchase a TV, in that only, okay, DTH, Wi-Fi router, PlayStation, home theater, all are integrated. Okay, what's the problem with that? Suppose you like better home theater, no option, you have to adjust with existing one. Or you like better PlayStation, but you have to adjust with existing PlayStation, right, my dear? Keeping all these headaches in mind, is it going to work out? Not going to work out. So when it comes to what, guys? Microservice architecture. Purchase TV separately, PlayStation separately. Integrate as you want. Integrate as you want. What's the advantage? PlayStation you can use for multiple TVs or not there. Or a Wi-Fi router you can use in different homes or not there. So that flexibility is there while working with what? Microservice architecture. Each microservice is one RESTful web service. That's why microservice is the extension of what? Web services. Okay, Spring Boot application is equal to 100% code-driven configuration approach plus auto configuration. Microservice project or application is equal to multiple RESTful services or projects, third-party tools for integration, and lots of what? Design pattern. We use lot of third-party tools and we also use what? Lots of design patterns. Convinced with me, my dear? Come on, everyone. Got the clarity or not there, guys? Super. Java applications are what? Vara. Write once, run anywhere applications. Super. Java web applications are what? Vada. Write once, deploy anywhere. Web service based distributed applications are what? Interoperable application. They are also called as what? Docker application. Develop anywhere, consume anywhere. Develop in Java, not compulsory client should be used in Java itself. Client can be there in .NET for consumption. Everyone understanding my statement? Remember these basic formulas. What is there? Java applications are Vara application. Write once, run any. Once you develop the .class file, you can move that .class file to what? Any operating system based JVM for execution or not there. Okay, next one. Java web applications are what? Vada. Write once, deploy anywhere. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Once you develop the web application, you can deploy in any server or not there. Same application you can deploy in Tomcat, WebLogic, that's why. Or write once, deploy any. Next, Java web service, or not Java, web service applications are what? Docker application. Develop anywhere, consume anywhere. Your distributed application is there in Java. Consumer need not to be in Java, guys. Consumer can be there in Java, .NET, Python, JavaScript, Android, iOS, anywhere it can. That's why we say distributed application allows only one type of client or different types of client. Different types of clients will be there in same domain or different domains. Different domains. Suppose you develop a distributed application in .NET, not compulsory you should consume in .NET itself. We can consume in what? Multiple places. That's why what is the first statement I have created? Docker. Develop anywhere and consume anywhere. Interesting or not there? Okay, guys. Okay, now let me introduce. This is not our doc. What's your document, guys? 719. How much? Session 6? Yes. Let me give categorization of various annotation. In core programming of Springboard, we use following different categories of annotation. Annotations for configuration, annotations for data supply. Supply means injection, guys. Annotations for Spring Bean lifecycle and lot of what? Miscellaneous annotation. Shall we see categories of different annotation? Are same as Spring. Okay. Most of these annotations are inspired. Most of these annotations are Spring annotation. Spring Boot is no doubt. Spring Boot is having its own annotation. No second thought in that. Spring Boot is having its own annotations. No second thought in that. But most of them will be inspired from Spring itself. Some advanced annotations are there at the rate Spring Boot application. It's kind of advanced at the rate configuration properties. They are Spring Boot specific annotations, right? Okay, but most of the 95% Spring annotation, 5% what? Spring Boot annotation. See guys, annotations for configuration. We use these annotation to configure one or other thing. Especially to configure Java class as Spring Beans are not there. These annotations are given to configure Java class as Spring Bean. That means making IOC container, creating objects for Java class are not. Providing info to underlying server or container or framework by marking the Java code is called as what? Configure. It's giving some information to container about the classes is called configuration. Getting my point? This process gives inputs instructions to what? Underlying container or server or framework to recognize and use given Java code in certain angle. To recognize and use what? Okay, given Java code in what? Certain angle. Are you getting my point? Super. Okay, tell me next one. At the rate component to configure user-defined class as Spring Bean, service, repository, controller, REST controller, controller advice configuration. All these are basically there to make Java class as Spring Bean. Plus some additional facilities also they give na. Okay. At the rate service, Spring Bean comes service class so that we can keep business logic and we can take advantage of transaction management. What do you mean by transaction management, guys? Executing the logics by applying do everything or nothing principle are not there. Repository to make Java class as Spring Bean come DAO class where we can write persistence logic are not there. Where we can happily write persistence logics are not there, guys. Are you understanding my statement, guys? component service repository, and at the rate bean method is there to make certain predefined class objects as Spring Bean are not there. So all these are the annotations for configuration. Yeah, these are the annotations for data supply. Data supply means what, guys? Injection activity. And first of all, tell me, at the rate, except at the rate bean, remaining all are called stereotype annotations are. Why? They are the multiple annotations of same category are not there. That's why they are called as what? Stereotype annotations. Okay. Now tell me, annotations for what? Data supply. At the rate auto void value qualifier primary. Okay, first of all, you observe at the rate auto void for to inject one Spring Bean with another Spring Bean. At the rate value, what is the purpose, guys? To inject simple values to Spring Bean properties or not. At the rate qualifier, at the rate qualifier to resolve the ambiguity problem. Primary to resolve the ambiguity problem. Understanding? And we have some Java config annotations, guys. What do you mean by Java config annotation? Listen carefully. These are not Spring supplied annotations. These are Java, JWE technologies given annotation, for which Spring is providing their own functionalities, Hibernate is providing their own functionalities, EasyAB providing their own functionality. Good na, sir? Why they have given? To make code as more interoperable code. So what happened? If I use this annotation, I can move my code from one framework to another framework easily. It's a good, nice thought, na, sir. But why we are not entertaining much? Unfortunately, very few Java config annotations are given. With that, we cannot complete entire application. So using few of them, using few of Spring annotation, again making code as what? Specific to Spring only. That's why we are not entertaining Java config annotation. Who knows? In future, they may come up with what? More and more Java config annotations. Come on, guys. More and more. That time, we stop using Spring specific annotation, Hibernate specific annotation. We work with what? Java config annotation to make our code more non-invasive. Okay, towards what? Annotation utilization are not there. More non-invasive towards what? Annotation utilization are not there, guys. Come on. Sir, in Office, they use at the rate inject. That time, do you need to join? That time, do you need to join batch again, sir? Not required, Babu. Mr. Suresh, so there is a process of learning upgradations, right? So upgradations you can do on your own. See, listen, in your school days, you learn basic vocabulary of English. Later, you are interested in what? Advanced vocabulary of English, right? So you can get it by reading novels. You can improve it by reading newspapers, right? Are you understanding my statement, guys? Please suggest method to learn and keep servlet ready before you start Spring Rest. Not before I start Spring Rest. Suresh, you should learn before I start Spring MVC itself. Okay? And if you want to learn thing, okay, Naresh IT YouTube channel is there. I have uploaded so many basic videos of what? Servlet. You can go through that. Okay. Do you mind sharing some notes of yours? That is not possible. Why? Because I'll tell the reason. Nowadays, I'm not taking advanced Java. If I start giving my notes, it will be problem for what? Other faculty already teaching advanced Java, right? But generally, those days I used to spend, because it's important course of those days, I used to spend 4 or 5 months on it. Definitely, it will be depth subject, right? But nowadays, advanced Java lost its importance. Maybe they are winding up in 45 days to 2 months, right? Fine. For this time, that is the right duration. I'm not saying that's wrong. So unnecessarily, it's a waste of confusion for you people. Okay. Inject is a Java config annotation. For Spring people will provide Spring functionalities. Hibernate people will provide Hibernate functionality. EaseAB people will provide EaseAB functionality. That's why they are what? More non-invasive annotations. They are loosely coupled annotation because one annotation is implemented in different annotations. Are you getting my point? Okay. Fine. So, but I have kept so many videos on Servlet and JSP. If you are looking to get fundamentals of Servlet JSP, you can watch those videos. You go to Naresh Shetty YouTube channel, there I kept so many videos. Yeah, listen guys. What is the purpose of Java config annotation? They are originally given in JDK and JWE. But functionalities are given according to the framework, how they are implemented. According to the framework, how they are implemented, where they are implemented. Are you understanding my statement, guys? Okay. These annotations make our code as what? More non-invasive because they are not Spring-specific annotations. So moving code from one framework to another framework becomes very easy or not there. At the rate named, what's the purpose of this? Makes the Java class as Spring Bean come Spring Bean, like at the rate component kind of thing, right? But this is also got one more purpose. Using the same name, I can avoid the ambiguity problems also. Using the same name, I can even avoid what? Ambiguity problem also we can avoid. Interesting or not there? Super. To configure Java class as Spring Bean and also to resolve what? Ambiguity problem. Its work is combination of stereotype annotation like at the rate component and what qualifier. It's a multi-purpose annotation or not there. It can be used to configure Java class as Spring Bean, and it also can be used to solve the ambiguity problem or not there. At the rate inject alternate to at the rate auto void. At the rate resource alternate to at the rate auto void plus qualifier. So not only it can inject, if any ambiguity problem comes, we can I tell, no, not that, you go for this injection, right? So that's why it's a combination of at the rate auto void and qualifier are not there. Super. Okay, now listen. Why industry is not preferring Java config annotation in Spring Boot programming, though they make our code as what? More non-invasive. There are two reasons. Very limited Java config annotations are given. They are not at all sufficient to replace Spring specific or Spring Boot specific annotation. Only 5% only they are fulfilling the requirement. 95% again you have to use what? Spring and Spring Boot annotations, right, my dear? Instead of that, better to use 100% Spring and Spring Boot annotations are not there. That's the reason number one. Reason number two, why we need Java config annotation? Tomorrow, if you move your code, other than Spring Boot framework, there also same annotations can be used. Now, first of all, tell me, what are the alternate framework for Spring and Spring Boot as on today in the market? Not there. When not there, why do you think about moving the code? No. When you are not moving the code, why we need Java config annotations? Convinced or not? See, when alternate is there, we move the code. But right now, alternate is created for Spring and Spring Boot. No. So when there's no question of moving code, why are you thinking about moving code? Come on, guys. You got another company offer letter, then you will think about moving to company. But you did not have offer, you have not given interview. Why you think about moving the other company? Got it, my dear? Same thing. Very few annotations are given as Java config annotations. These annotations are not at all sufficient to develop what? Serious real-time project. Instead of using few Spring API annotations and few Java config annotations in our Spring Boot application, they are preferring to use only Spring Boot API annotations in what? Real pro. As of now, there is no serious alternate for Spring Boot framework. So moving Spring Boot project code to another framework and executing in that framework without code changes is practically not going to happen. If an alternate framework is not there, why do you move the code, guys? Okay, invasive means tight coupling, na boss. Non-invasive means loose coupling. If needed, we can place use both Spring Boot API annotations and Java config annotation in single project or not there. Fine. Thought is nice. They have given Java config annotation through JDK, JWE, so that if all people started using those annotation in all frameworks and application development, so code can be moved from one framework to another framework without any changes in the coding or not there. But thought is nice, but implementation is not happening that much effectively. Okay, now let's see, guys. Annotations for what? Spring Bean lifecycle. At the rate post construct. Other one is what? At the rate pre-destroy. To make Spring Bean class method as what? Init lifecycle method. Pre-destroy. To make Spring Bean class method as what? Destroy lifecycle. And luckily, these are also Java config annotation. That means these lifecycle method annotations, not only in Spring, outside Spring also we can use are not there. And we have a lot of miscellaneous annotations now, my dear. At the rate property source or property sources to configure one or more properties file. This is useful or not there. At the rate component scan to scan the given packages and to make what? To make certain classes as what? Spring Bean. This is useful or not there. Okay, guys. Import resource. I want to give XML inputs to Spring Boot application or Spring application. To link XML file with what? Configuration class. This is there or not there. At the rate import. To link one configuration class with what? Another configuration class. We can work with import or not there. At the rate scope. To specify Spring Bean scope. At the rate lazy. To disable pre-instantiation on what? Singleton scope Spring Bean. We can use this at the rate lazy or not there. What is the advantage of Spring Boot framework compared to what? Struts or JSF? Question is Spring Boot alternate for Struts or JSF? No. Because it's Spring Boot is better than Struts and JSF, guys. Using Struts at max, what we can develop? Web application. Using, what is there, guys? Using Struts at max, what we can develop, my dear? Web application. But using Spring Boot, I can develop standalone application, web application, distribute application, microservice architecture application. So tell me, it is just a replacement, it's better than Struts and JSF. It's better than Struts and JSF. Clear, guys? Struts just JSF are just a web framework which can be used to develop what? Web application. Whereas Spring Boot are what? Application framework or JWE framework, which can be used to develop standalone applications, web application, distributed application, microservice architecture application. It's better than that or not there. Is Spring Boot? Wait a minute. Let me write. Is Spring Boot alternate to Struts or JS? Alternate to Struts or JSF. Struts or JSF are just web framework which can be used to just develop the web application. Whereas Spring Boot are application framework, JWE framework, which can be used to develop standalone applications, web application, distributed applications, and what? Microservice architecture application. What applications, guys? Microservice architecture application. Is Spring Boot, is Spring Boot alternate to what? EasyAB? No. EasyAB is a technology using which we can develop only distributed application. But using Spring Boot, I can develop what? All kinds of application. It's better than that or not there? No, EasyAB is given to develop distributed application, whereas Spring Boot is given to develop what? All kinds of application, including distributed. EasyAB is a JWE technology which gives complexity towards what? Distributed application development. Spring Boot are the frameworks which simplifies what? Multiple application development like standalone applications, web application, distributed applications, and etc. Everyone getting my point there, guys? Is Spring Boot alternate to what? Java JWE technologies. What is there, guys? Java JWE technology. No. Spring Boot framework complements what? Java JWE technologies because they internally uses what? Java JWE technologies to simplify application development process. Clear, my dear? Spring Boot frameworks are not alternate to what? Java JWE technologies. In fact, they are complementing what? Java JWE technologies. They are technologies to develop enterprise application. But Spring Boot internally uses technologies and simplifies what? Enterprise application development are not there. Fine. Second example application in Spring Boot on dependency injection. Here, what's your plan, guys? We want to use a strategy design pattern or not there. Second application I would like to develop by using what? Strategy design pattern. What's the example I have taken? Vehicle and dependents are what? Engines. Okay, everyone please revise strategy design pattern 3 principles, guys. Come on, everyone. Forgotten so costly. Strategy design pattern 3 principles. I want reply from you. Rule number 1. Favor composition over inheritance. Keep target and dependent classes in what relationship? Has a relationship. That means composition, right? Number 2. Always code to interfaces and abstract classes. Don't code to concrete classes in order to achieve loose coupling or not. Number 3, our code must be open for extension, must be closed for modification. Okay, guys. How do you achieve first principle? By taking dependent class as has a property of target class or not. But in this situation, to satisfy second principle, that property should be specific class type or common interface type. That means you have to make multiple dependent classes implementing common interface like petrol engine, diesel engine, electric engine implementing common engine interface. You have to take as a property of type engine type or not there. Say something, guys. Rule number 2. Okay, how to make third rules happy, guys? When you make multiple dependents implementing common interface, 50% of the third rule is satisfied now, boss. Our code must be open for extension. Okay, implementing engine interface, I can take what? CNG engine, water engine, so many engines can be added or not there. So that means our code is open for extension. That means our code is definitely open for what? Extension. Okay, by taking all the classes as final classes, what classes? We can make our code closed for modification or not. We can make our code closed for modification or not there. Okay, in this process, When multiple possible dependents are there to inject to a target, there is a possibility of getting ambiguity problem or not. There is a possibility of getting ambiguity problem or not there. And how to solve this ambiguity problem? How to solve this ambiguity problem? Best solution is qualifier. Other options are, and we can match it. Has a property name with what? Dependent class bean ID or not? Like this, in multiple ways, we can solve the ambiguity problem, guys. Okay, fine. So tomorrow when we meet, we are going to develop our what? Second application using strategy design pattern in Spring Boot. We try to make this code also 100% loosely coupled code with the support of what? XML with the support of factory bin. With that, our second application completes, guys. Then I will prepare background for mini project where we are going to experience auto configuration. What is there? Yeah. So that's why till that time you don't worry about auto configuration. I'm just trying to develop few application in Spring Boot, what we have already seen in what Spring, so that you will understand the development differences between Spring and Spring Boot. We have not entered into auto configuration yet. Okay, guys. Let me upload the notes. It is what? Where is this, guys? 17th July. Spring Boot core. File upload. 719. Spring Boot core. Session 3 na? Session 4. Session 4. Session 5. Okay, that's good, guys. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll discuss more. Thank you. Have a nice day.